Hi guys, and welcome to my first cooking tutorial. I am recording this with my older camera because the original video was shot with my older camera and I didn't want to have to deal with multiple formats. And I actually baked this over a month ago. It was a gift for my boss on Boss's Day back in October, and I just kind of never got around to putting it together and recording this portion of it. I took mostly pictures, so I'm going to basically be talking through the recipe and inserting pictures as necessary. And I really wanted to get this done because I took some video of some of my holiday baking and I thought, well, you know, I haven't even got my first one done. So I think the next cooking video will probably be more video, kind of with some captions, but I'm still kind of playing around and seeing what I like for these cooking videos, so feel free to leave your feedback as well, and we'll just kind of see how these develop going forward. Today's recipe is for a fruit tart that I get a ton of requests for. It's really easy and you can customize it by using your own favorite fruits. And the recipe was originally written for a convection oven. I don't have a convection oven, I just have a traditional normal oven, so you know, there's kind of a lot of experimenting and going around, and I'll mention, you know, the temperatures and times for both kinds of ovens, so whichever you have, you can, you know, use those instructions. And the full recipe and written instructions will also be on my blog. I'll include a link to that in the information box, so be sure to check that out if you want to print it out. You know, it'll be nicely formatted and everything if you want to give this a try yourself. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. And the first thing that you're going to want to do is the shortbread crust. It's really, once you've done it, it's kind of like a cookie texture. And, you know, for a convection oven, you're going to want to set the oven to 325 degrees. If you have a conventional oven, you're going to want to have it kind of a little hotter, maybe like 335, between 325 and 350. So you're going to use an electric mixer to cream the butter and sugar together. You're going to be using 1 stick of butter and 1/3 cup of sugar. Once those are well mixed together, and if you don't have an electric mixer, you know, feel free to just use a spoon. You can cream butter and sugar just fine with a spoon, although it may take a little longer. Once they're creamed together, mix in the vanilla, and that's just a 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla. Then add in the flour and continue mixing until a dough forms, and that's going to be 1 cup of flour. So then you're going to pat the dough into a flat disc and press it evenly into a 9-inch tart pan with a removable bottom. I don't have a tart pan, so I use a cheesecake pan, and I find it really makes things a lot easier to line the bottom with parchment paper, and that just makes it pop out of there a lot easier instead of having to worry about it sticking. When you pat it in there too, don't press too hard, because if you do, the crust will get really like firmly packed and it can be difficult to cut once it's finally cooked. So once it's pressed into the pan, then you're going to want to bake it until it's lightly browned, and in a convection oven that's going to be about 15 minutes. In a conventional oven, it's going to be about 20 minutes or maybe a little bit longer. Just kind of at 20 minutes check it, and if it's golden brown, then it's ready to go. And while that crust is cooking, I'll go ahead and mix the cream cheese filling. Again, with an electric mixer, you're going to beat the cream cheese and sugar together. For the filling, it's 8 ounces, which is like 1 package of cream cheese softened, and 1/2 cup of sugar. Once those are blended together, you're going to add in the egg and the vanilla, and that's going to be 1 large egg and 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla, and you're going to beat it until it's fluffy, and you'll just kind of be able to tell. I mean, I'm hoping some of you have a little bit of baking experience. There are some things that it's hard to describe. You really have to see and feel the difference for yourself. But once it gets goes from being just creamy to a little bit fluffy, then it'll be ready. When the crust comes out, you can actually cook that ahead of time, like a day or two, and refrigerate that if you want to. If you're doing it all at once, I would recommend just letting it cool for like 5 or 10 minutes before adding the cream cheese filling and sticking it back in the oven. And for a convection oven, that's going to be about 20 minutes. And in a conventional oven, you're going to want to check it at about 25 minutes. So again, it's just kind of keeping an eye on it. You don't want the filling to get, real brown, just very slightly golden right at the edges. And while the filling is cooking, I usually take that time to get my fruit ready, to get it all washed and get it sliced up. And you can use pretty much whatever you want. I have kind of an inspiration picture stapled onto the recipe here, and this picture actually isn't even a tart, it's a cheesecake, but that's just an example of how you can arrange your fruit. And I'll see if I can dig out a couple of older pictures. Every time I make it, it turns out a little bit different. It's just going to depend on what fruits you like and what fruits are in season. So once you get that all cut up, and once the filling is done, you're going to want to let the filling cool like 5 or 10 minutes, not a real long time, and you still want the filling to be soft. And you're going to arrange the fruit in a decorative pattern and just press it down slightly into the filling so that it stays in place. And I actually went ahead and recorded the whole process of me placing the fruit. It's really easy, and if you want to really pile the fruit on there, you can do that. If you just want less fruit and more of like the filling and crust, you can just use a little bit of fruit. It's really totally up to you. And then the last step is optional, and it's one that I actually usually skip. But if you've ever purchased a tart in the store and you know they're really shiny, the way that you can achieve that at home is either with like apricot preserves or apple jelly. You're going to want to heat that up, and usually, let's see, I don't have an exact amount on here. I think I usually use like maybe a third or half of a jar. Heat it over the stovetop. You do not, absolutely not want to try to heat it in the microwave. Tried that just once and it was a disaster. It did not get thin. It actually, like overcooked it, and it ended up getting really hard. So just get a small saucepan and heat up the apple jelly in that until it gets kind of a thin consistency. And then with like a brush, you're going to just want to like brush it over the top of the fruit, and it'll just create a glaze, and then you can let it set. Chill the tart until the cream cheese filling is firm for about 3 hours, and you're ready to serve it. And yeah, if you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment either down below or on the blog. As I said, I'll have the full actual text of the recipe included on the blog, since, you know, I'm kind of trying to touch base on everything, but I'm sure there are a couple things on here that I'm missing since I'm not reading it word for word. But yeah, hopefully for my first cooking video this isn't too horrible. I feel like it's pretty good, and as you can see, the final results are beautiful and also delicious. And for sure, if you actually give this a try and cook it, I'd love to hear what you think. I'd love to see a picture of your finished recipe. You could feel free to share that on my Facebook fan page, and of course the link for that is also down below in the information box. So, as always, thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more cooking.